Hey guys, weekly update for Plenty, week number 4. Going to share with you all sort of new features and updates we've been adding to Plenty. From new models, new tools, and then also new capabilities that we have in the canvas. So new models and new tools. Last week I shared with you Ray 3.2, but now it's integrated properly into the video restyle. So you can see this example. I'll dive into the specifics of Ray 3.2 in a second. A reaction diffusion model running on WebAssembly on the web, no AI model involved. Tool called grad.js, which is a very interesting one. And all of those examples are done with it. So I'm going to share the specifics shortly. Powerful model called Uni, 1.1 by Luma as well. It got now the ability to support up to 9 images. I'm going to show you some of the stuff you can do with that. There is Aleph 2 by Runway, which is integrated as a standalone tool, but also over here you can choose Aleph as well. I'm an experiment with it. I'm still working and fine-tuning the parameters, but it is pretty capable. Then the InPaint got some updates and new ways to work. So there is a very interesting method, which I'll start with in a second, about generating 3D models inside a bounding box. And finally, a consolidated export modal that you can easily export your assets from your canvas in a very convenient way. Yeah, so let's go full screen and start. One of the most interesting ones, I would say, is the boxgen.js. So as you can see, when I'm dragging it, there is a new interaction on the canvas, which is this bounding box on the ground. If I'll release it, I'll then be able to define my bounding box, and I can choose something like that, which is a little wide, and then I can click on this arrow here and extend this upward, and now the modal for either image to 3D or text to 3D would open, so I can toggle between them. I'll go with image to 3D for now, and I got this guy over here, and I can just generate now. And what would happen now is that the 3D model would land inside a bounding box, and there is other parameters which you can help forcing it even better. So if I'll make another bounding box and I will toggle the force bounding box, what this is actually doing behind the scenes for some of you that are familiar with Cinema 4D, for example, there is a deformer, like an FFD deformer, which is basically pushing the 3D model generated even closer to the edges by a smart separation of the proportion based on this specific asset. So this one is an interesting function that I'd love you to play with. But yeah, let's just close this one and let's see what is landing here in a second. Here we go. And this is very interesting because it's not that the model is being adjusted to fit the bounding box by stretching it. The model is actually generated to fit the bounding box. And as you can see, all of those has been generated with the same image, and all of them got unique proportions. That's a unique feature for Plenty, which I think is super interesting. We've been playing with this concept for quite some time, and finally this is working. I'm going to push this to production today, and reminding you that you can now choose multiple 3D objects together. Let's maybe just choose the 3 of those for the sake of the example. And then I'm going to the render button. I can also toggle the shading from here if I want to see the topology of them. And by the way, they got nice quads. So I'm gonna toggle this off. I'm going to go here and to the path tracer. And now just like that, I can render multiple objects together in the path tracer, iterate on compositions using additional iterations on different Gen AI models using those images that you can drop now in the canvas. The next example is for Luma. So the next one is just for details on the video restyle. So I use this reference image, and I use this video I generated with Kling based on an image I generated, actually a few images generated. And then the setting that is mostly interesting is really the adhere. And the adhere is defining how much the style would be translated or transferred. So with adhere 2, it's actually like a sweet spot. So I find it really translating exactly the details from this image. So the scan lines, this is basically the default for the model, but you can also play with preserving the most from the original image. or just going wilder and reimagining more. The next one is a new tool called Grad.js, and this tool is running depth map estimation, so depth anything, but on your browser, on your GPU. And let me show you the settings here and what you can do with it. The basic preset basically creating this depth effect on the character, and I got the bright version of this one as well, and I can change it to bounce mode, which will be a little smoother, and I can play with the gradient repeats, playing with the depth gamma, which will clamp thing harder if you'll crank it up, and also the contracts, that they work nicely together. And you also have like a global blend and some blending modes and so on, so you can play with all the different parameters over here. Also, just play with the presets. So if I'll go for this one, so as you can see, it's working pretty nice with the quality with almost any image, even if it's a 2D one. And you can just play with like a wash effect that will only affect portion in the image that are in a different Z position, basically. So you can see all sort of examples here. And some of them, like this one, has been done with like very basic images that are very far away. And if you play with, the amount of repeats, you can get effects like this one. Just some simple 2D shapes, and they immediately get like some depth. So yeah, that's an interesting one. And the next one is the reaction diffusion. I'll just take this guy, basically recognizing some of the outlines and starting to perform a simulation. And also here you got many modes, so you can basically play with the way it would work, and you can play with the speed if you want to adjust certain presets to be faster. And it's all based on reaction diffusion, so it's different formulas, but they all eventually based on the same idea. Next one is Uni 1.1 by Luma Labs. On edit image mode, we also have it on text to image mode. And this model is very good at following directions. So I will take an image I generated with a bunch of cups, and I can take more images. This is the most handy model to edit many images together and get like very specific directions. I will write something like use the 8 cups from, I'll take the image 1, image 2. And the model is not very creative, I would say. I mean, it's able to generate nice images, but it's very literal. So if you'll say, make the object in the foreground desaturated, it will completely just desaturate the object in the foreground without the right blending. So you might need to say, use the right blending so the scene would be this and that. Yeah, let's just see the result here. Yeah, so nothing spectacular, but we have our 8 cups and the font on top. So yeah, this is a good model when you need like very specific directions, and you can always keep on processing that again and again in some of the better models if you want. The new variations of the in-paint, and by new variations, I mean that if you'll click on the eraser, you'll see that it's changing a mode for Bria erase. And if I'll change it to a reference image, you'll see that it is changing to flux context fill. So maybe I'll just do a quick example of just deleting the font here. So I'll just do this, generate, yep, and there we go. I'm going to move now to another board to show you some final specific additions for the canvas. So let's look at this Mobileye board. I want to show you improvements we made. This is a 3D render from Cinema 4D that we delivered at Yambo Studio for Mobileye. And I used the close-ups tool to really get some fine details. And as you can see, it is keeping all the important stuff while giving some very high level of detail that is not visible really on the render. Then the video reframe has been getting improvements as well. And as you can see, it is getting some really impressive results. So play with it. There is now a consolidated sharing modal over here. So I can choose now really whatever I want from the canvas, just like that. And just clicking on the download button, it will bundle all the items together and will get you a zip file. So opening the zip file, I got an empty file with all my sticky notes and who made them and on which date. I got, in this case, 2 videos. So I got a video folder and images, and I got images. And those are all the images, but all the images will have the proper name of the model they've been generated with. You can use it to download all together your whole board, just like that. 3D models, images, text, basically all together. We heard from people that the exporting wasn't very clear. So this is a new modal which will keep on improving, but we believe is very handy. Then I can now go select images, Command G to make them into a stack. And now opening that, and I can drag it directly to which wasn't working before. And we also improved things to work smoother within dragging basically everything to everything. Prompt enhancer. If you'll go over here, you'll see that you have this button, but it is not just improving the prompt in general, it's improving the prompt based on the specific model chosen. So if you'll play with it, you'll see that every time you click on that, the refinement will run for a specific model. One of the more handy examples would be if I'll just take Sidence 2, for example, 6 seconds animation, complex movement. And if I'll click on that, you'll see that it is tuned for Sidence 2, and the prompt will start to be written right now. And what you'll see that is happening is that the time-based storyboard, obviously you can edit and get the specifics as you wish, but just this structure specifically for Sidence is something that I've been using all sort of like prompt agents and stuff. So we are consolidating everything inside Plenty so we can get some solid prompts with just simple explanations. And you can also revert back to the original version that you had as well, just like that. And one little thing I forgot, for those of you who work with Wacom, you can use now Q and E in the keyboard in order to zoom in and out. Yep, that's it, guys. Thanks a lot for your time, and see you next week.